In the current manga in My Hero Academia, the quirk singularity is something that has been a topic as of late, especially given that the original holder One For All spoke out to Deku and told him that he has passed the point of singularity, which obviously implies that, the quirk singularity was going to hit Deku sooner or later. And in one of the latest chapters, we pretty much see that happening. We don't really know exactly what is going to happen, because that's kind of the thing with the quirk singularity or singularities in general. You can't really predict them. That's the whole point. They're unpredictable and you're really down to guesswork at that point. So with Deku, we're really seeing how One For All is trying to reach out to him, helping him, but from Deku's point of view, it's of course a bit different, because he's really experiencing this in a very violent or aggressive way where, he feels like the quirk is either trying to fight against him or attack him. But that's not really what's going on, because in the latest chapter, chapter 212, we learned that one of the previous holders, I'm not exactly sure which holder it is, but he looks like a real rough guy, and he's really trying to tell Deku that he's using it wrong and he's doing things the wrong way. So it really doesn't feel like the quirk is trying to attack him, rather it's really trying to help him in its own way. But due to the fact that Deku didn't really have a way of communicating back, he didn't really know what was going on. So we're really seeing a very interesting way of the quirk singularity to hit someone. Deku being the only example that we have so far, of course, but I'm sure it's gonna happen to a lot of other people. Like, I'm pretty sure Todoroki, among others, are going to reach the point of singularity, because if you look at Todoroki specifically, his father pretty much bred him to become even stronger than he is, meaning that, quirks that were passed on to his other children would not have been as strong as Shoto's, whereas, in Shoto's case, it's pretty much at its peak, it's as strong as Endeavor pretty much envisioned his strongest child to become. So I would really not be too surprised if Todoroki eventually hits this point as well, and it's gonna affect him in some kind of way. Obviously not in the same way as it's affecting Deku, that would be crazy, but in its own way, and it's really gonna create some obstacles for Todoroki and some new ways of using his quirk. It's probably gonna evolve in whatever way, and that is something that we're gonna be experiencing throughout the story's runtime. And obviously a lot of other people are also going to probably reach this point, especially people with unimaginably powerful quirks, because that's kind of the whole thing with the quirk singularities, that when a quirk becomes too powerful, it hits the quirk singularity pretty much, and that is when the quirk can become a lot more unpredictable than you might expect. Now in One For All's case, it's obviously a little bit different, because it is a quirk that has very special conditions. It is being passed on from user to user, and it's kind of stockpiling power along the way, so it's ever growing. Whereas in other people's case, they inherit the quirk from their parents, but they don't really get the power of their parents necessarily. It's not really passed on, it's just inherited. It's a lot different from how Deku received his power. So Deku obviously has these personalities that can guide him along the way, as it turns out. We didn't really know this a very long time ago, but now as of recent, we've learned that this is something that is probably gonna happen. This is the first one that's really reaching out to Deku, apart from the original user, which obviously was the one who only told him that he had reached the quirk singularity, the point of singularity as it were. But this new guy, this guy that Deku claimed was a really funky guy, or a really rough, he looks really rough. So I'm really curious exactly what he's going to be telling Deku in order for Deku to really be able to move on and use this quirk properly, because he was telling Deku that he was using the quirk the wrong way, and as such I would imagine he's going to give him advice on how to really move forward in order for this new black energy to really manifest correctly, because I feel like he knows exactly what's going on, and he's gonna try and tell Deku what he needs to do in order to reach the next level and tame this new mutation or evolution of One For All that's currently happening. Now one thing that's really interesting to think about is whether the quirk singularity is gonna come with some side effects and some negative things in general, because you'd think that once someone hits the point when quirks are considered to be too powerful, which is a natural phenomenon that is mentioned in the story even before this chapter, when the original One For All user mentioned it to Deku. This term has come up before, and you may wonder, okay, but can you really just be reaching the point when a quirk becomes so strong without really getting any serious issues? Because I don't think that's the case. I definitely do believe that, whenever you reach this point, yes, you may be getting a boost in power as long as you manage to get it under control, but there's certainly going to be some problems along the way too. too. You know, it's not Christmas. You're not gonna get only good stuff out of this. And I think each and every one is gonna have to find their own way to really tame this power within them whenever they reach the point of the quirk Singularity. Now, one really interesting way that the quirk Singularity really could function is that it's gonna work not quite as a transformation, but more as a toggle switch. So kind of like a transformation, but a bit different, where you usually have your normal power, you know, the way you typically would use your quirk, but you also become able to take it a step beyond, but that's gonna be a lot more demanding on you, and it's obviously gonna become a lot stronger, but the drawbacks are gonna be a lot more intense as well. I think this is something that would really balance the quirk Singularity out, have it be like a temporary boost in power and skill and whatever, but obviously whatever negative things that you normally have will be a lot more intense at the same time. So while you gain a certain amount of power, you also risk a lot more if you don't keep things under control and make sure you stay within your limits. However, as we all know, as I said, I mean, the quirk Singularity is very unpredictable and things could be very different. It could be nothing to do with power at all. In fact, it could be something that's just gonna signify that Deku has reached a point at which things are gonna get a bit more dangerous, and it might not even be, you know, anything that even touches on his level of power or output whatsoever. You know, it could be something that really just helps him control his quirk, at least in his case. I mean, obviously, like I said, everyone will have a different outcome probably, because everyone have very different quirks, which are all tied into their DNA in various different ways. So, you know, you can never just pinpoint exactly what it's going to be doing to them. Well, that's really it for this video. I really hope you liked it. You know, I'd love to know what you guys think about the quirk Singularity, because it is obviously a really big topic in the manga right now, and you know, it's something that a lot of people probably have different ideas of. Like, obviously I gave some of my ideas in this video, but you may have totally different ideas as to how the quirk Singularity is going to affect people, and maybe you have, you know, something kind of like how I mentioned, a real good functionality of how the quirk Singularity is going to play a role in the story, you know, with their quirks in the future, because it is something that I think it will. I just don't know how, because I feel like the quirk Singularity is either gonna be something that, you know, once you pass it, you're either gonna just have a massive boost, or it's going to really change the way you use your quirk as a whole. But that's just me. So yeah, I'd love to know what you think down below in the comments, and as always, if you did, be sure to Detroit smash that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. This has been Chaotic Plus, and remember everybody, Toga is waifu, Toga is laifu.